In this video, I'm going to be going over JavaScript timing, and we're going to be learning about 4 different methods. And so by the end of this video, we're going to be creating a stopwatch that works. So if I click on start, we're going to see that we're going to be adding 1 to a variable every 1 second. And when we click on stop, we're going to see that it's going to stop. And so before we actually get started, make sure that you leave a like, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and hit me up on Discord or Instagram if you want private lessons on web development. But now, let's get started. Now, the first timing event that we're going to talk about is going to be setTimeout, which executes a function after waiting a specific amount of time. So it could be milliseconds, seconds, depending on how much time we write in the method. And now that we know what method we're going to learn, let's go ahead and open our JS file and start learning it. So the method is called setTimeout. And then in this method, we're going to need to have 2 parameters. The first one's going to be the function. And then the second one's going to be the amount of milliseconds, so the time. And for now, let's just do 1 second. So we're going to write 1000 because it's going to be in milliseconds. And for the function, you can either create one in here like this, and it's going to look like that. Or what you can do is create a function outside of it. So let's do my function. And then we can just run this function inside of here. So my function. Remove the curly brackets and run it like this. Just to make sure that it works, I'm going to write log, just do hello world to see if this works. And now we're going to see that we're going to get this log every time we reload the page. And it's only going to happen once because that's how this function works. So let's say that we had a button with a class of btn. I'm going to write click me, and so let's add an event listener to the button. So let's select it first of all. So document.query selector, class of button, dot add event listener. On click, we're going to run a function. And now we're going to put the console log in here, or actually we can just put the timeout in here. So let's just delete all of this. We're going to put the timeout, and then we're going to create a function here like this and put the console log inside of the setTimeout here. Now, we can see that nothing happens, but once we click the button and wait 1 second, then we're going to see the console log work. And so we can obviously change the time to something like 500 milliseconds, and we're going to get the log a lot faster, or we can set this to 2000 milliseconds, and 2 seconds after clicking the button, then we're going to get the console log. And what we can also do is actually stop the setTimeout method from running by using another method, which is called clearTimeout. Now, what we can do is delete this, and when we click the button, it's going to stop the setTimeout method from running. And to do that, we actually have to make a variable, which is going to be equal to the setTimeout method. So I'm just going to write let timeout, which is going to be equal to this. And we can change this to an alert. So if we wait 2 seconds, we're going to see the alert work. Now, when we click the button, we can write stop timeout. And when we click the button, we're going to use the method called clearTimeout. And then in here, we're going to write the name of the variable, which is going to be timeout. And let's see if it works. So if I reload and wait, we're going to see the alert. But then if I reload and click it and wait, we can see that nothing happens. And that's because the clearTimeout method stopped the setTimeout method from running. And so for the clearTimeout method to work, you need to run it before the setTimeout method works, or it's going to look like this. So we're going to wait for the setTimeout method to work, and then we click it. We can see that nothing happens, and that's because this method already ran the callback function that's inside of it. So reload, and we have to use the clearTimeout method before the setTimeout method works, which in this case is done by clicking this button. And now that we know the basics of setTimeout, we're going to go over the next method. So I'm going to delete everything from the JavaScript file and the HTML file. And so the second method is called setInterval. So we're going to write setInterval, and the parameters are going to be the exact same. So I'm just going to run a callback function. And then for the time, make sure that it's not going to be too short if you're not putting the exact same time, because it's like a loop. So if we write a console log in here, I'm just going to write hello. We're going to see that every 1000 milliseconds, we're going to run the function in here. So the difference between these two methods is that setTimeout is going to wait, let's say, 1 second, and then it's going to run the callback function inside of it once. And the setInterval is going to run the callback function every single, let's say, 1 second in this case. So every 1 second, it's going to run the callback function in the method, which in this case is just going to console log hello. And so what we can do is we can make a variable. So I'm just going to set x to equal to 0. And in here, we're just going to add 1 to x. And so we can just console log x in here. And this is actually an example of how you can make a stopwatch. So every 1 second, we're going to add 1 to x, and then we're going to console log it. And there's a lot of different things that we can do in it, but this is just a very simple example. And we can obviously change the time to something like 500 milliseconds, and it's going to happen 2 times faster. And make sure that you're not going to put a number too low, because if your device isn't really fast, then it can crash and it might not end up really good. So I'm just going to stick to 1000. I'm going to show you how we can stop this method, and it works the same way like with the setTimeout method. So let's uncomment this, and then we're going to make a variable. I'm going to do interval, and it's going to equal to the method. Now we're going to make a button. So let's create the button. I'm going to write stop. I'm going to add a class of stop. And then we're going to select it. So document.querySelector. Select the button with the class of stop. We're going to add an event listener. On click, we're going to run a callback function. And in this function, we're going to use a method, which is called clearInterval. And in here, we're going to write the name of the variable, which is interval. And we should get an error. Yep. So for this, I'm just going to set x to 0 just to fix that error. And now we're going to see that every second, we're going to run this setInterval method. And then if I click on stop, then we're going to see that we're going to run this clearInterval method, which is going to stop this method from running. And so before I end this off, I'm going to show you how you can make a simple stopwatch. So we're going to do most of it in our HTML. I'm going to make another button. We can actually delete this classes. So let's do that. And then we're going to have a start button and a stop button. We also need the paragraph, which is going to display the time. I'm going to comment all of the code in here. Now we're going to add the onClick attribute. And so in here, we're going to make the variable. So the name of it, I'm going to set it to stopwatch. And that's going to be equal to setInterval. So we're doing what we did from before. Here we're going to run a function. I'm going to name it stopwatch function. And then we're going to basically run this every 1 second. And so the reason that we made a variable is so that we can stop it when we click on the stop button. So I'm going to add an on click here too. And then in here, we're going to write clearInterval. And then the name, which is going to be stopwatch. So now it should work, but we have to do some JavaScript too. So the main thing that we have to do is make a function which is called stopwatch function. And in here, what we're going to do is select the paragraph. I'm going to uncomment this part. So let x. We're going to select the paragraph, and then we're going to set the text to x. So document.querySelector, select the paragraph, and then we're going to set the inner HTML to equal to x. Now let's make sure that this is setInterval, and then this is also interval and not timeout. And when we click the button, we're going to see our time increase. So it's going to be 5 seconds, 6, 7, 8, and we can stop it also. So when we click on stop, we can see that it's going to stop. If you want a challenge, what you can do is add a clear button, which is going to clear the stopwatch. And so this is where I'm going to end this video. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, then make sure that you leave a like, subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions or anything that you would like to say. And make sure that you hit me up on Discord or Instagram if you want a one-on-one private web development lessons. And hopefully, see you in the next video.